Okay, I guess we are ready to start. Hello and welcome to our live webinar, how to unleash the full potential of hybrid software packaging and workflow management. Shortly about us, about myself. My name is Daniel Meise. I've been working for RayNet as a key accounter for 9 months, and I'm very happy to guide you through this webinar with my colleague Martin.
Hello, it's Martin here. I've been working like 12 years now in RayNet, and also like around that time experience in area of software installation, software packaging, software deployment. I'm kind of also an MSI ex-geek, but also as ex-developer of RayPack Studio. I'm also probably the right guy to help people, help users, help our partners to make most of our products, to make most of our hybrid mindset.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We have prepared some topics for today, and some topics we would like to discuss with you in this webinar. First of all, we want to look how software packaging and workflow management can help you in your daily work life. Afterwards, Martin will introduce us to the new feature highlights of our solutions in our demo environment. And before we start with our typical Q&A session, we will also give you a short overview about our new news and updates. A quick note before we start right now, all guests are muted. If you have any questions, please feel free to use our chat function to post them, and we will respond to them afterwards. Okay, great. What you see is the typical development of the hybrid packaging, and to illustrate the potential of the software and the workflow management, let's look at the trend of the hybrid packaging. There are more and more different types of packages that need to be created, for example, MSI, MSIX, Citrix, and so on. And we've got also different operating systems, so like Windows, Linux, and Apple. And even the package factory can be on-site, can be off-site. And our answer to this hybrid infrastructure is, the hybrid software packaging is our full-time software packaging solution. So we can use our software solution RayFlow and use it to support the workflow management. It enables the cross-team working, while our RayPack Studio can be used for the evaluation, the packaging, the quality assurance, and the compatibility testing. And at least our package store can additionally be used for pre-configured and deployable software packages. And in our next step, Martin will introduce you to our new features in our live environment.
Okay, thanks. So just a side note, there is a chat, and Daniel will now switch to kind of moderation and taking a look at the background. If you have any questions, just post them in the chat window. We are trying to answer them as soon as possible, unless you want to ask them just at the very end. We'll also have a separate session, but interrupting is also not a big deal. We can cover some more interesting or particularly interesting aspects for you. All right, about feature highlights, most of the webinar today is going to be live, so I'm going to actually dive into our products as they are installed and running on my desktop. But before we start, here is just a quick overview and kind of what we have been doing in the last couple of weeks and months, and how our products get better, and what does it mean for you. Like Daniel already mentioned, the enterprise hybrid packaging, which has different number of environments, maybe locations, on-site, off-site packaging, but also systems require a good tool to manage them all. not only about the low-level process, but also the high-level one. And for that, we have RayFlow, where we actually put a lot of attention to bring the enterprise-related features. Our basic strategy for RayPack Studio and for RayFlow is to still invest into different directions. So we don't really want to force you to go any particular route. Whether you are today doing the MSI packaging, or maybe repackaging them all, or maybe you have already switched to the MSIX format, or using some additional tools, maybe using Citrix, maybe using PSADT. Couple of options are there, and we don't want to force. We want to have a non-opinionated framework, including packaging, but also the workflow ones, which also will make the transition easier. So even if you are doing MSI today and plan to go, for example, to MSIX in a year or two, we're just going to make sure to support you. You will still be having a similar looking UI inside of, in this case, RayPack, and that switch to another thing will be hopefully as smooth as possible, staying within the same framework, staying within the same tools, requiring little or none training at all. And having said that, I'm going to show a couple of things later of life, but just to give you our mindset, where do we bring our products to? What you can currently see on the screen, feature highlights, it's not really an extensive list of them. I highly recommend to go to our website. There's plenty of other material, release notes showing what else have been done. And this is just kind of more like a general agenda, but I'll be slipping some things between them. So I hope you'll find this interesting. And also we are really willing to hear you for your feedback. So what are we going to show you today? One of the things where we actually put a lot of effort was to support conflict resolution for Citrix App Layering packages. The technology itself is something that we've, I guess, we introduced that in the last version of RayPack Studio. Now it's also backed up by a powerful mechanism in which you can deconflict the layers. If you already have experience with that, you probably know that Citrix App Layering doesn't really provide any decent tool set to make a cleanup or even to understand that there might be issues like conflict, like similar files which might be overridden in a order that you don't really have control on, which might lead to broken packages and stuff. So we built an extra functionality on top of our app compat module, RayQC Advanced, and this works pretty much similar to what we've had so far, the MSI, MSIX, MV testing, but just now goes into yet another direction of enabling you to import and test Citrix layers. Next thing, this is going to be pretty interesting for the workflow part, is our effort to bring single sign-on capabilities into our product. We had some little functionality to actually make sure you can log in with your Active Directory credentials. From this release on, it's also possible to make it fully single sign-on, where you don't have to enter anything at all. So it's just enough to use your browser, visit RayFlow, and there you go. You are logged in with your Windows credentials. One of my personal favorites, personal changes in RayFlow is the ability to control and be slightly more flexible around how you build your workflows for packaging. Again, going back to the original concept, if you have a single workflow which is managing different types of packages, you may guess that different types of them might require some different solutions. You may go for some different packaging route if you have an MSI or repackaging. There may be something different if you are willing to stick to PSADT, which is just wrapping around something coming from the vendor. And finally, if you have, for example, app layering implemented, there's maybe yet another route that you want to have. Previously, managing them and making sure that your packages go to the right packaging phase was possible, but still could incur some human mistakes by, for example, sending a package to not the right phase that you wanted. In this version, it's much better, and you can configure on your administration level that particular tasks will always get some specific route. I'm going to show it live, so you'll see it's pretty cool and gives not only flexibility but also empowers RayFlow in creation of different types of workflows which are still managed in the same interface by the same person in the same view. The next interesting topic is our work on our checklist tool, RayQC, where through a couple of changes we added even more flexibility, how to test your software, but also how to build a basic automation for other tasks. So it's going to be pretty interesting, and I hope you like that. And that's also one of my favorite changes in recent time that we did into RayPack Studio. Finally, two topics which are strictly more about kind of packaging. Based on our observation today, many enterprises are trying to be less strict about choice of their underlying technology. Back in years, it used to be mostly Windows installer, MSI, and with some kind of strong focus on repackaging and making sure that whatever is not yet an MSI will eventually be, whether repackaged or from vendor. However, in the recent years, there has been a kind of a trend that setups from vendor are getting better and better. They provide rather decent support for silent deployment. They provide even an installation, hopefully better, maybe not, but still there are kind of ways to overcome these issues. And once you can get your app automated, once you can get to install it without these nasty dialogues and pop-ups, the other things are kind of, say, a piece of cake. So what enterprises are doing, they want to save time on the complex packaging. They want to just focus on some more critical business activities and just maybe going the wrapping route, like with PS PowerShell or some specific toolkits built on top of that. For example, the PS PowerShell app deployment toolkit. We have something for that, and also something which kind of makes it faster to deliver the package in the right configuration without spending too much time on these so-called low-level issues. So that's going to be also something which is going to be pretty interesting in this live demo. And finally, all of this can be also managed with our simple assistant, EasyPack, which kind of changes the decision point from like saying what you have and how RayPack can help you, and then it guides you through different set of options, whether it's repackaging or whether you are going to make a wrapper or maybe any other option, MSIX, conversion, Citrix, modification packages, all these topics bundled together in a single, simple to use wizard. Okay, so that's it in terms of this short introduction. And I'm going to now minimize it, and we're going to get back to that later on. For the time being, I'm going to start with RayFlow. And like I said, if you have questions to what I'm doing or you want to something more, some different insights, don't be afraid, post in our chat window, and we are observing it. All right, so I'm just going to log in using my standard credentials. It's a pretty simple vanilla RayFlow instance running on a lightweight Windows server. If I want to get a single sign-on, this just needs to be a machine which is domain joined to Active Directory, and then with a single switch, you'll get rid of that UI at all. So I'm using a supported browser, Microsoft Edge, and by using that browser, that dialog will not be shown anymore, and I will land directly in that page. There are a couple of options which we also implemented in the background, which help you synchronize your Active Directory groups to make sure that people that you allow are getting access and that they get the right rights based on the group they are. It's slightly maybe too technical, but just good to know that it's kind of a complete, say, tool set which lets you set up your single sign-on to our RayFlow. RayFlow supports many tenants, many different projects and workflows. They can be completely different, and they are completely separated. So changes in one project do not change the other one. I currently have just only one, which is packaging, but it's nothing uncommon to have like 20, 30, or even more, especially if we are talking about service providers. I'm just going to select it That's not really a rocket science. And here we are in the main overview of our RayFlow server. One of the first changes that we did is the right-hand side, where we can see the packages that are awaiting. So they are not yet accepted by anyone, and they are awaiting so that someone can pick them up. Whether they are in eval, POA, or QA phase, it's something that you immediately see. Combined with our feature of sending notifications, you can be sure that this won't last too much. So as soon as something happens, as soon as there is a new order or there was a transition, like a package traveling, say, from packaging to QA, that someone will pick it up, get an email, or see it in this overview. And likewise, there's also another one. Currently, there is nothing assigned to me, so there is 0, but you can also see all your packages that belong to you, so that you can also have a quick overview, understand where you left yesterday, and pick up the work starting from today. Typical RayFlow has a few phases on the top. This is something which is highly configurable. There are customers that prefer more like horizontal approaches, so like from left to the right. There are some which prefer more vertical, mixed ones, so it's also fully possible. What I did for this demo, it's pretty much standard with exception of a single phase which I added over there for Citrix, and that's just going to help me out with showing you one of the features that we implemented in RayFlow. Otherwise, it's pretty standard. There are a lot of options for admins to configure, but once it's set up, it pretty much works according to your guidelines, which model your business reality, your business requirements. So let's go to the phase called POA. And typically, we're working with RayFlow. It's what you see, a list of columns, list of packages, and they are all grouped by the phase they are in. Package order acceptance is usually, but again, it's just our best practice. You can completely redefine this. It's for verifying whether the order coming from either import from maybe a file or from package store, ServiceNow, or just manual import, that it's actually going the full route here. Maybe it's already the stage where you say, but it will not work. It's not compatible with our system, or it doesn't have all required sources. So it's normally a mix-up of some things that you check manually, or use one of our tools, RayQC Advanced, for that. We're going back to RayFlow in a moment, but maybe since speaking of that, I'm going to open up RayQC Advanced to show you one of the feature highlights in that module. RayQC Advanced is a tool which lets you test a package in a format that you specify and say, first of all, is it compatible with my portfolio, with other packages? Is it compatible with my base operating system? Will there be any clashes in, say, registry keys or files or shortcuts, whatever I have installed on my base image? Finally, you can also combine this all together. So testing a new incoming app and saying, yeah, it's compatible with my system, it's compatible with all the other apps that I might have, and maybe finally, it's also capable of being converted to MSIX, which also RayQC Advanced supports. I'm not going to go that much into details of functionality that we already have in the product, so you can read much more about it and see other webinars from RayNet. But for the time being, the most interesting part for me is the app layering. So app layering is completely new in this release. Like I said, it's giving you an option to import yet another type of package, the app layer from Citrix, and try to find out whether the other layers are having any conflict with whatever layer I want to import. Like I said, there is no decent tooling for that. There is no even a decent tooling for deconflicting them, but you can use RayPack Studio for that. So nothing from Citrix in that matter. And in that version, in this version of RayQC Advanced, we properly support detection of files or registry collision, but also a couple of metadata, which at the end is going to be reported in this central place in RayQC Advanced in a standardized format. So whether you are going through MSI, MSIX, or Citrix compatibility, the end result looks pretty similar. So let's just try to do something pretty small for our demo. I'm just going to go to the library to this new place where we store our layers. I have two of them which are already imported. So it's pzip and WinRAR. From the name, you may imagine that there may be some hidden conflict between them. They may register themselves as your file archive handler, compressor or decompressor. And for Citrix, it might be an issue because depending on the order of the layers, one of these apps will win, the other one will not, but it might be different depending on where you deploy. So if I select them both and go to the test wizard, it's going to be a pretty simple test. I don't have to configure all the options, including the parent layer or some advanced selection. I just really want to know, are these two packages, these two Citrix layers, compatible with each other? And if I start it, just like I said, quick, next, next, next. This is going to provide me a result. It was super fast, so to say, and it's red. So potentially some warning or error. And indeed, like we might have suspected, there is a conflict. And the conflict is really RAR, tar, and other zip archives are pretty much defined by both apps as they handled formats. So this is basically how the issues are reported. This is how you get to know them. This is how you get them reported. And from now on, I can save this maybe for some further use in my library so that I can retest later if I fix things, or I can create a PDF file and maybe in best case, for example, upload to RayFlow so that there is also a trace of that work that I've done here. But in the simplest approach, if I just continue, this is going to be reported to my library. So I have a full overview of what I did, which two packages I tested, and where the conflicts have been detected, regardless of the source format, regardless of the target format, regardless of whether it's the app compat or system compatibility, which RayQC Advanced both supports. So this is something great for Citrix App Layering users. Let me now minimize this slightly, and going back to RayFlow, this, like I said, RayQC Advanced belongs typically to POA, and next phase, which is for sometimes called software discovery, sometimes in evaluation, I have two apps, and I'm going to show you what I meant by saying that different workflows can be now properly supported and eliminating manual and human errors. There's two tasks in RayFlow. One is a package, the other one is layer. And exactly for that, I have now two phases. They are right now, say, horizontal ones. They could be also vertical, stacked on top of each other, depending on what is your need, how your RayFlow is configured. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to say my sample package will be now finished. So I'm going to transition it to a finished state. Without saying, like, what is the next phase? What should be done with a package? RayFlow should be able to determine it automatically based on my type. So I have now two defined, which is package and layer. You can certainly create some more. This could be, for example, PSADC or MSIX or layer or manual task whatsoever. And if I accept that and say it's finished, the package is going to be moved. Let's now do the same with the layer. And also, let's say the job is done, and now the user says, I'm done with that package. Let's say it's now finished, accept it. And as you can see on the top, one of these packages went through the packaging route, and the other one is in package Citrix. So this is pretty much something which I really like about this new version of RayFlow. I don't have to now think about where is my face, should I go right or left, should I maybe jump over some particular one. Just based on the type of the package, RayFlow just knows where to send it out. And as such, there is just one workflow, but both types of packaging are supported. And then that change I'm doing is now then properly traced in the package tracking so that I can understand, all right, my Citrix package have been moved from Evo to PKG Citrix, but the normal one would be then going over packaging. And that's this trigger, which depends on the package type. Okay, so that pretty much concludes what I was willing to show in RayFlow. Like I said, there are a couple of other tweaks and changes that we did here to make sure that these transitions but also notifications about them are also more transparent and provide even more context, like configuration of emails in our new advanced notification plugin. For the single sign-on, which I kind of highly skipped here, there are also a bunch of settings for groups management, making sure that you get right permissions into the system. So that's pretty much what has been done recently with RayFlow. Let's go now back to the RayQC Advanced. I can then also log into RayFlow in this place. So this is something which you need to do once on your desktop so that we can pick it up who you are and to which project you are willing to connect. So if I repeat a similar procedure I did on the web and go into packaging, where I should be now logged into RayFlow, one thing that is new in this recent version of RayPack Studio products is that they also share the session, meaning that I'm now logged in to RayQC Advanced in this case, and if I open up RayPack, as you can see, I'm already logged into RayFlow as admin. And now in this version, we store credentials in the System Credentials Manager, so it can be properly managed. It's secure, it's controllable, it's manageable, and it's just one click less. So from now on, my products will work properly with the RayFlow session, and that also makes it easier to work with RayPack Studio components when they are configured to work directly with RayFlow. Since we are now in RayPack, I'm now going to go to package store integration. Like I already announced, it's a great way of getting a pre-configured package which comes fast, which has some proper options predefined by Raynet or configured by the user using the product. And I'll actually go and make a quick demo out of that. Using maybe EasyPack, which is an addition that we did in version 7.3. Like I said, it's use case driven, so you may already have your setup like executable or Windows installer or MSIX. You may have just sources that you want to deploy, a couple of files, exe, maybe shortcut registry, or you may not have them at all. And in that case, package store will jump in. Before we go to package store, here is just again a quick idea of what you can expect if you select that you have your sources and you specify right now. Let's say keep as my setup for packaging. As you can see, RayPack is clever enough to create a silent command line that you can use to install KeePass. And that's super important because since we can automatically create deployment for Intune or for PowerShell App Deployment Toolkit, we're going to certainly take it over and make sure that it's the default that you get. So it's app specific or installer specific. And again, one little step that you don't have to do manually, looking up Google or Bing to get this up and running and understand what's the silent command line I need, in that case for KeePass. From now on, like I said, context specific, you may go for repackaging, wrapping, Intune, and if it would be MSIX, there would be modification package. If it's MSI, it would be then probably transform, a couple of other options. And the wizard is kind of, like I said, context intuitive to just guide you through options which make most of sense for that particular packaging. But like I said, we are not going to do that. Instead, I want to show you how quick is it to use the third option, which says, I do not have sources, but I know what I want to do. I want to, for this demo, I would like to show you how to, for example, package a Mozilla Firefox browser. Web browsers are nowadays super specific. They are more and more common, like your hosting platform for different apps that are running in cloud, SaaS, and so. So it's super important that your browser is just up to date. That also means updates are pretty frequent, and it's super important that any vulnerabilities or new technologies are delivered in a good pace. So if I look for Firefox, I'll just take some one of the newest versions. I guess 114 is the newest one. Crazy versioning, by the way. And for Firefox, I have some internal set of guidelines. For example, I will be willing to ensure that there is no automatic update involved because I want to patch this app on my own. I may have also some other business requirements, but we'll see them in a moment. Let's pick up Firefox from that list. So like I said, it's 114, Mozilla public license. The bitness is something which I can still specify, but 64-bit is pretty much standard these days. So after selecting Firefox, going next, just to confirm, yeah, and the browser I need, it has a generic language, version, platform, fine with that. And now I do not have sources, but as you can see, Package Store knows something more about it. It offers me a choice of automatic download, which I'm going to do. But if I had the sources somewhere as buying exe, maybe delivered by a customer, I could also use them, and they will be then checked if they are matching to that signature. But let's go the easy route, download from the web. This will just take a moment. We'll get, say, the vanilla original installation of Firefox. And now there comes some extra layer on top of that, which comes from Package Store. Package Store knows something more about this app, Firefox. It knows that there are some options which can be switched, like, for example, removal of desktop shortcuts, like the per machine or per user installation, like suppressing of reboots, again important to make sure that your task sequence or deployment is not interrupted prematurely, and some other stuff. So they are, again, context specific. Some apps may have more, some may have less. And also Firefox is interesting. We also put out a lot of attention here that it delivers some really Firefox specific settings. So for example, I could, and this is, by the way, the default best practice by Raynet. For example, here the Mozilla maintenance service is disabled, so no updates. Some bundled extensions disabled, I don't want them. And yeah, shortcut in start menu may be okay. Taskbar probably also fine. And oops, I'm sorry, do not close. And maybe just to show something custom, I will change Mozilla Firefox here into just simply Firefox. So that's one little change I am going to do. And that's it. Once I press next, my package is going to be created and I'm actually ready to go. These packages are all pre-tested by Raynet, so you may still do some little integration tests, but other than that, we already made sure that it's a running package, that these options are exactly applied as you wanted. So let's check it out. Go next. And the packaging is done. If you have experience with PSADT, you will also recognize the pattern over there. So we really support the PSADT toolkit. What you get is a wrapper on top of the original Firefox setup. And I can now try to open it. RayPack supports two different modes. You can try to open it as PSADT, where you get a visual editing, kind of the only functionality on the market today, or you can open up the original Windows installer with the changes. And I'm going to just show you out of curiosity what Package Store did for us and where we actually saved time. So like I said, we're going to open the MST. And we are now in Pack Designer, which is our core module for editing setups. Pack Designer should be already pretty well known to our current RayPack users, and also for new users, it's pretty, I would say, easy to see. It's a simple visual designer allowing you to manage files, folders, registries, and other basic entities. We also do have a variant for MSIX, so we can work natively with MSIX projects. But the actual thing I wanted to show here is hidden over there in advanced view, and the green color is used to denote changes that RayPack did, again, automatically. So what we did, we changed our install directory of Firefox to C program files Firefox, and it's there, and we don't have to really think how to name it, where to put it, what's the name, no typos at all, and also other things like disabled at remove programs interaction, like prevented reboots, maintenance service, which is disabled, are all in place. So that's actually a fully functional package, which is now silently installable, can be also silently uninstalled, can be now also sent to Intune as a package project, and with all the proper detection rules and stuff like that. So there are a couple of choices here, but the core job has been done by RayPack, and now it's just a matter of whether you are going to publish it or maybe do some extra work on top of that, maybe adding some custom stuff, extra files, extra registries. So that's a typical way of working with RayPack. All right, let's now switch to last, so to say, bigger highlight. And that's something which I really like, and I also hope that this demo you'll find pretty interesting. It's RayQC. It's a tool to create checklists that let you test a package or a process from, so to say, from beginning to the end, depending on your choices. The workflow might be slightly different. I'm just showing now a really basic sample of an MSI product, which is being read, and its product code is checked, its installation is checked, log files and stuff like that. So something similar, nothing super fancy, but just to give you a feeling of what RayQC can kind of produce. These are just a building block, so you build your checklist without knowing any kind of programming, just drag and drop, and also any kind of interaction with your system, with MSI, with RayFlow, files and stuff like that. It's completely visual driven. It's a drag and drop. So that's more like a feeling of a product. And now what I'm going to show you, and that's the interesting feature highlight of this last release, is extended flexibility and ability to make more of it using PowerShell. For this demo, I integrated ChatGPT into the checklist tool. So the name should probably be familiar. It's maybe slightly a buzzword nowadays, but still there are a couple of interesting use cases you could do, and RayQC can properly also support it due to its ability to be extended. For example, I could write here a question. I don't know, it could be maybe, when was Windows 10 released? So this is going to be sent to ChatGPT, and if I run either the complete checklist or just a part of that, I will get an answer, and hopefully this is the right answer, 2015 Windows 10 release date. So this is like coming really in the back of ChatGPT, and maybe the example here was not super, say, spectacular, but still gives you an idea like how to put your custom logic, maybe scripts that you have collected over the years, and how to integrate existing other technologies, frameworks, or AI in this case to get something useful. Also, one of the additions that or changes that we did in RayQC in this release is the ability to work with control points, also coming from your custom PowerShell code. For example, here is another prompt which says, okay, it's in German, but MSIX feature or a function, and this check, the next one, will tell me yes or no. Is it possible to do it using MSIX? So is that feature supported in MSIX? Also AI driven, also reported by ChatGPT, with a difference that RayQC is able to also receive the answer and classify it. Is it yes or no? For example, if I write kernel drivers, which should be not supported by MSIX, and I start the plugin, it tells me no, they are not. So that's what our artificial intelligence is now suggesting to me. However, if I do the same and write, maybe start screen shortcut, start screen or start menu, I think it doesn't matter. So let's just try out. So yeah, I want to replace my previous output. And now it's probably start menu shortcut. So also be aware that AI has sometimes issues with kind of reliability, but in that case, start menu shortcuts are definitely supported by MSIX, and I get my checkpoints which says yes, and also that is coming from the ChatGPT. So also visual driven, but lets you kind of put really complex logic within a single step and get to understand the output of that step here, yes or no, as simple as that. That pretty much concludes the basic highlights I wanted to show. We will now go back to our PowerPoint to cover a couple of other topics, and then we'll get back to QA session where maybe we are going to get back to this and to this product, this workflow, and depending on your questions, we might make some more deep dive into other interesting topics.
Okay, great, Martin. Thank you very much for that very interesting overview. We heard a lot of things about our package store, about the new functions, and please do not hesitate to ask us for a trial license. Our package store, which still contains, I guess, about over 20,000 pre-configured and available software packages. We will also make macOS packages available in the near future. So please contact us. We will give you a short live demo. We will answer your questions. And if you want to try it on your own, please just ask for the trial license. We'll be very happy. So the most of you are using our tools like RayFlow or our RayPack Studio tools. So we would appreciate your feedback to our products and would be very happy about your feedback afterwards.
You can probably stay a minute on that screen so that you can take a picture of that. So you will get that PDF once this presentation concludes. So there's always a way to go back, and your feedback is really appreciated. And now Q&A.
Great. All right, we've got still enough time for your questions. Please address all the questions you still have. I will check the chat if there are any questions right now. The chat. Okay, here's the first one. For Citrix model, do I need the web console at all?
So this probably is a question to, I was not really showing the packaging of Citrix App Layers, more like testing, but this question probably relates to the packaging. So RayPack Studio is kind of standalone, so it can create also Citrix App Layers, for example, converted from your MSI setup or from repackaging. Someone later, you still, however, need to import a layer into the Citrix console. So the answer is yes, you will still need it, but to a very limited degree, which is more or less just say import and export function. Nothing more is really offered by Citrix, and nothing more is really required from you once you use pack layering for Citrix App Layering.
Can we package drivers?
Is there some context? There are different formats, so there is probably not a single answer to that. Basically, I was showing Pack Designer for Windows Installer, and Windows Installer has a support for drivers installed with the divx module, but also as I was showing with ChatGPT, the kernel drivers in MSIX are no way to go. There are some different ways to deploy, so it's kind of always a trade-off between which format are you using, features that you need, and what's the current Microsoft recommendation to actually do that.
Okay, you've got any further questions? Yes. We're 1 minute over, but okay, one question we've got here. Any updates in MSIX support in your product?
Any updates in MSIX support for our product? I can interpret you're not referring to the MSIX update capability, so like using app installer, which we by the way support, but more like to the feature set. And like I said, so we try to have a non-opinionated framework, so investing in both, say, MSI repackaging, but also MSIX. And over the last releases, we did a lot of additional features. We are trying to keep up with new stuff that MSIX is supporting and changing from year to year. Also, PSF is getting some attention and getting some smaller but still important updates. Plus, also with each release, something which is maybe less prominent but still important, we try to work on success rate of conversion to ensure that as much as possible can be converted completely automatically from your installing sources, from repackaging, from setups, from MSI. And these are background changes, but overall help the experience in MSIX and making it slightly easier to go into that, well, let's face the fact, not easy format at the beginning.
Okay, I can't see any other questions, and we are 2 minutes all the time right now. If you've got any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us anytime. And for the moment, now we are 3 minutes over time. We thank you for your participation, and yes, have a nice day and see you next time.
Thank you.